Assalamu alaikum. In this video, I'm going to tell you about electrochemical cell, specifically galvanic and electrolytic cell. This video includes an introduction to electrochemical cells, electrochemical cell definition, types of electrochemical cells, comparison between the galvanic and electrolytic cell, last but not least, the mechanism of electrolytic and galvanic cell. In the introduction of this video, I will be telling you about the history of electrochemistry and specifically the story of discovering electrochemical cells. In 1771, Luigi Galvani discovered that frog legs move as a result of electric shock. This experiment was one of the first experiments in electrochemistry, and around the 1800s, another Italian scientist named Alessandro Volta contested the findings and interpretation of Galvani. He proposed that the electricity was actually generated not because of any inherent electricity present in frog legs, but because two different metals, which are iron and brass, were connected by Moy's conductor, which is frog's legs. Volta connected two different metals with a piece of cloth or cardboard that was soaked in salt solution, which is an electrolyte. He created a pile with alternating elements of copper and zinc with an electrolyte between them and generated electricity with this arrangement. This was the first example of a practical battery. To define electrochemical cells, they are devices that can produce electrical energy from chemical energy and vice versa. I'm going to talk about two types of electrochemical cell, which are galvanic and electrolytic cell. Now let's compare between the galvanic and electrolytic cell. The first and most important point is that in the galvanic cell, an electric energy is generated by undergoing chemical reactions, while in the electrolytic cell, an electric energy produces a chemical reaction with the help of an external source. The other point is that galvanic cell converts chemical energy into electrical energy, while the electrolytic cell converts electrical energy into chemical energy. Also, in the galvanic cell, a spontaneous reaction occurs, while in the electrolytic cell, a non-spontaneous reaction occurs. Last but not least, in the galvanic cell, the anode is charged negatively and the cathode is charged positively, while in the electrolytic, the anode is charged positively and the cathode is charged negatively, which is the complete opposite. Now let's talk about the mechanism of galvanic cell. We know that any cell contains three essential components, which are cathode, anode, and an electrolyte. In addition to these components, the galvanic cell contains salt bridge. Out of the two electrodes, the electrode at which oxidation takes place is called anode, while the electrode at which reduction takes place is called cathode. The anode has a negative potential with respect to the solution, while the cathode has a positive potential with respect to the solution. Thus, a potential difference develops between two electrodes of the galvanic cell. This potential difference is known as cell potential. Now let's talk about the mechanism of electrolytic cell. We know that a cell contains three parts: an anode, a cathode, and an electrolyte. The cathode and anode are attached to an electrical circuit. These two electrodes are dipped in an electrolyte, which can either be a liquid or dry powder. When this cell is connected to an external circuit, chemical reactions happen within the electrolyte. Due to these reactions, positive ions and electrons are generated near the negative electrode. The electrons flow towards the positive electrode from the external circuit, while the positive ions move into the electrolyte. The electrons recombine with positive ions at the positive electrode. Thus, the circuit is complete and our device starts working. Due to the oxidation reaction, an electrode gets negatively charged, which is called an anode, and due to the reduction reaction, the other electrode, the cathode, gets positively charged. Now the cell's chemical energy gets converted into electric energy. Now, to conclude this video, from the above differences between galvanic and electrolytic cells, we can conclude that a galvanic cell produces an electric current with a chemical reaction that happens spontaneously in it, whereas an electrolytic cell does the opposite. This means it brings about the chemical reaction using an electric current from an external source. This video is supervised by Dr. Reem Al-Bilali.